I want to thank you guys for being here today. It's absolutely gorgeous out. And it was Thomas Paine who in 1776 wrote a book called Common Sense. And in it he talked about sunshine patriots. Patriots who were only patriotic when the sun was shining. And a number of people I know are out on the river or on the lake or whatever, and that's our prerogative, but I admire you and salute you for taking time out to be here. This is important. There should have been 5,000 people here today. No, 10,000 people here today. But you're here and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And by the way, I'm biased because I work for this organization. It's called Freedom Project Education. Freedom Project Education is an online school that's dedicated to teaching across this country and the world, if necessary, the classical education and the tradition of the founders of this country. And if you want a free Declaration of Independence and Constitution, the booth is directly behind us here with Alan Scholl, the Executive Director. So don't get a handful of these and pass them out. We need to educate our nation on this book, because we know that most of our senators have never bothered to read this book, and our congressmen. Now, across this great land, a historical and monumental movement of millions and millions of Americans dedicated to our republic under God is scaring the political, corporate, and elite media powers that be. This summer, listening to the DC politicians and the media talking heads, it was like, for me, like living in an Orwellian nightmare where good is called evil and light is called darkness. We, the people, were called hijackers, terrorists, Nazis, fascists, racists, lynch mob, and kidnappers, as the media covered up for senators and congressmen who could not find the courage to deal with less than 1% of the federal budget. We are fed up with expanding federal government, and we, the people, are demanding the end of corrupt Washington, D.C. business as usual. You cannot fool us, Washington, as you blame us, the American people, for the S&P downgrade and the budget debacle. You can't fool us, Washington and media elites, as you slander and libel and label and malign and smear we, the people of the United States of America. We, the people, have had enough of Washington spending money we don't have. We've had enough of Washington overtaxing the producers, the job creators, the hardworking Americans in this great land. Big government politicians for far too long have used very clever language of phony words of fiscal restraint, lower taxes, local control, and smaller government. They fooled some of us in 2008. They did not fool us in 2010, and they will not fool us in 2012. Americans have been duped in the past, but not this time. Our republic's survival depends upon it. We must keep the House of Representatives. We must take back the Senate for our nation so Senator Ron Johnson and other right-thinking senators can do the right thing. Right-thinking senators like Ron Johnson get it, because as experienced businessmen and women, they who have created thousands of jobs, they understand fundamentals. They understand economics 101 according to our founders and Friedrich Hayek, not according to Karl Marx, the hero of many American university professors and residents of the White House. Right-thinking senators like Ron Johnson understand that for an economy to grow, it must be done through the private sector and not through the expansion of tax-costing government jobs and bumbling bureaucrats whose job security is the next best thing to eternal life. This is why I teach. We need to recapture the wisdom of our founders like George Washington, John Adams, Patrick Henry, James Madison, who believed that government that governs best governs least. and that government, even in its best state, is but a necessary evil, and in its worst state, an intolerable one. It is intolerable when politicians lie to us and tell us they're actually cutting spending in Washington, when they don't truly cut spending, but decrease the increase with their deceitful baseline budgeting BS. Who on God's green earth do they think they're fooling? They're not fooling we, the people of the United States of America. When our founders studied the history of governments, they saw the confiscation of property, the subjugation of citizens under the ever-present, all-seeing despotic rulers of empires that have come and gone. Our founders despised tyrannical taxation and superfluous spending that imprisoned and enslaved millions under the ever-growing evil power of big government. Washington, D.C. politicians, hear us. You lifers in Washington, D.C., hear us loud and clear. We are tired of you hoarding and stealing from we the people for your power and your position. You have forgotten that your position exists to provide the people with freedom. And we here and millions across this country intend to elect people, citizens like Ron Johnson, who will protect us from career power hungry politicians. Freedom. Freedom is the key to life and prosperity in this country. Americans cherish freedom like the air we breathe. And freedom is suffocating in this land. It is suffocating because too many citizens have been seduced by freedom without responsibility. It is suffocating because too many citizens feel entitled to something for nothing. It is suffocating because too many citizens have grown lazy and forgotten the cost of freedom. Freedom is dying because too many citizens have forgotten where we came from. And it is dying because too many non-citizens believe we owe them our day of labor. It is a long, long history lesson, and I can see the hook's going to be grabbing me pretty soon and taking me off the stage. But it's a long history lesson, but big government ideas have always, and I repeat this, big government ideas have always been at battle with our wonderful constitutional republic. From Karl Marx's so-called scientific socialism to England's Fabianism to America's left-wing progressive socialism, those pernicious ideas have permeated much of the thinking of our elite media, our journalists, our universities, our Hollywood directors, our actors and scriptwriters. These big government, anti-founding fathers, anti-republic ideas are also, unfortunately, in the halls of Congress and at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It is imperative for us to reintroduce into our homes, into our classrooms, into our houses of worship, the wisdom of our founders. And we must elect men and women who actually know, love our great history, and actually govern by the Constitution of the United States of America. Now there should be more people here. The whole country needs to hear this. In the early dark days of World War II, when Nazi National Socialist bombs were destroying London and Western Europe, and Soviet Socialist bombs were destroying Eastern Poland and Eastern Europe, Winston Churchill spoke of a battle for the preservation of Christian civilization. We are in such a battle today for the preservation of this great republic under God. Now, while it may not be the military bombs of National Socialism or Soviet Socialism, they are bombs nonetheless. They are the bombs of creeping socialism. They are the bombs of progressive socialism. They are the bombs of forced spread the wealth socialism. They are the bombs of $14 trillion debt socialism. They are the bombs of backroom deals and no transparency socialism. They are the bombs of thousands of pages of socialized healthcare legislation that they didn't even bother to read. Shame on those politicians and outcomes of failed Keynesian stimulus, and spending money we don't have, socialism. Americans, fellow citizens of this great nation, we made a difference in 2010. Don't listen to the liars in the elite media. We made a profound difference in this nation in 2010, and we're making a difference in 2011, and we must make a difference in 2012. We must get the Senate back for freedom. Our republic is calling out to us today. Our ancestors beckon us to act now. If our founders put their lives and their fortunes and their sacred honor on the line in 1776, we must do no less today. I implore you, there should be more here, but there's enough. There's enough here. There's an army here. There's a peaceful, loving, educated army here of citizens who can influence one other person in their lives who influences another person. Talk to your neighbors, educate your co-workers, your children, write letters to the editor, help the campaigns of right-thinking politicians, call your congressmen, hold them accountable. It is our duty as citizens to do so. Don't just show up to a party on a sunny day, participate in the process and make a difference for life, for liberty, and our children. We must fight the big government politicians with the wisdom of our founders. We must fight them in the halls of Congress. We must fight them in the town halls. We must fight them in the media. We must fight them in the White House. We must fight them with the ever-determined will that says, we the people shall defend our free nation under God, whatever the cost may be, and we shall never, never, ever surrender to tyranny. Thank you.